everybody. So this is very exciting. We are here, even though it's just April, we are here to talk about the summer movie box office season. So fun. It starts earlier and earlier every year, but why not? Start as early as you can. And we're going to be giving our predictions. I mean, it just kind of ends up being like a little preview of the movies that are going to be coming up. And I'm film critic Rachel and David Rosen's here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me back, Rachel.
Yes, and Manda's here.
Hey, I'm so excited to do this again with you
Yay.
guys.
Yes. This was challenging summer to predict. I felt like there were very few sure things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if our lists are pretty different.
Yeah, there's not much that's like a sure thing, like you
Yeah.
said. There's no front runners. I mean, there's a couple things that I think are going to be at least towards the top of our list, but as far as like a definite number one, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no like Top Gun Maverick or something like that. That's a pretty much sure thing,
Mhm.
I don't think anything's gonna ever come close to Top Gun Maverick, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you all feel like 2024 we need a good summer? Do you feel like it's been a good, or do you think it's been a good year for movies so far?
I think it's been slow, and I think like independent films have like creeped up, like Monkey Man and Civil War, and now with like Challengers coming out. I think like it's just a really awesome time for films that are they're not tied to an IP or to a franchise. Like I think original projects are really moving to the forefront. And again, we even talked about this like last year when we did this, is like we could feel the tide shifting already. And I think that's like following through now this year too.
Do you agree, David?
Yeah, well, I think there's been a lot of really good movies. I just don't know for sure, like come the end of the year, how many of my current top 10 are still going to be there.
Yeah.
It's hard to say if these are
True.
like great movies or if they're just the best stuff that's come out so far.
Yeah.
So far, I'm pretty sure that I'll have two festival films in my top 10 of the year. And there's a movie called Musica that I loved so much at South by Southwest, and a movie that I saw at Sundance called Ghostlight. And those two, and maybe Hitman as well. But definitely those two were my favorites.
Hitman,
Sorry,
which will not make this list because Netflix is just going to put it on streaming.
we're getting a theatrical. I just want to say it. It's going to theaters in Canada land, so I'm very happy about that. I know it's so sad because like Hitman would play so great, like in theaters for everybody. So it's heartbreaking. I know.
What do you have at number 12?
Number 12 is, which would have been an honorable mention, is The Crow, which was pushed to August 23rd. So I mean, I don't know what that means for it. Yeah, it's towards the end of our window here. I don't know what that means for, how good it's gonna be. I certainly don't like the teaser. But I like Bill Skarsgård, so maybe. It's really hard to gauge, and it's obviously a cursed franchise, so that also doesn't bode well for it. But I think there's enough interest in it that it might make the list.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good dark horse. That it could be a surprise since it's a known, franchise and everything like that. I was definitely one I considered. What about you, Mona?
I have The Watchers, like, damn, we're doing like 12-1, right? Not that okay. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. I think M. Night is an incredible director. I think for original projects, he's just really amazing. Even though it's like a hit or a miss for me sometimes, but I do think that the trailer is pretty decent, and I do think it's going to do well with it coming out.
But The Watchers is actually directed by his daughter.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's M. Night Shyamalan's daughter.
That's right. Sorry. Yes, that's
no,
what I meant.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I was confused with that as well. And it's the battle between the Shyamalans. Which one is going to chart?
That's right.
Or they're going to help each other out, because as we saw in the commercial for Trap, there's an actual billboard of the Watchers in the background.
Oh, really?
So, yeah,
that's amazing.
They're helping each other out. They're keeping it in the family.
Yeah.
Well, my my number 12 is maybe a bit of a wild card, but it just looks so good to me, and I feel like we're having this like rom-com renaissance. And so I think that Fly Me to the Moon could surprise. I think having Scarlett Johansson, Channing Tatum, the script looks really good. It looks charming. It's got a good supporting cast with Ray Romano and Woody Harrelson and Jim Rash, and it just looks really, really good. and and like I said, we've been having this rom-com renaissance, so I think it could be a dark horse, a surprise.
Yeah, you're right. There has been a renaissance of rom-coms lately, and I actually haven't seen the trailer yet, so I don't really know that much about it except for the very strange premise. So who knows? It's a definite possibility.
Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, and Anyone But You just had 218 million at the box office worldwide, not American, but I feel like it could be a similar trajectory.
Yeah. I mean, you have like such charming leads on top of that. Like I will watch them in anything, and I think like, that's just going to be like a main draw too.
Yeah. And they have been in they were in that Hail Caesar together.
That's right.
So they have done stuff together. Yeah. So David, what do you have at 11?
Number 11, speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, it's M. Night Shyamalan's new film, Trap, which, again, he is hit or miss, but I feel like his last few have been great. Like, he's in this new era of just making really weird stuff, and I'm totally here for it. And I feel like everybody really liked the trailer for this one, so it could really get a lot of buzz behind it.
You really think Old was great?
Oh, I love Old. It is so bonkers.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm all in on Old. I love it.
It's crazy because I read Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay before watching Knock at the Cabin. And I was like, Knock at the Cabin was better than the book.
Oh, okay.
And I thought the movie was like, okay, but I liked the changes that he made surprisingly. So I was like, it was pretty decent, not gonna lie.
Well, I also have Trap at 11. So we're in the simpatico there. I mean, his movies have done pretty well. Self-financed, and so, I mean, if you look at something like Glass, that made $247 million. I mean, that's kind of a franchise, I guess, but and that's also worldwide. But I don't know. I feel like this is more mainstream than that, and certainly more mainstream than either of his last two movies. So, I think it could do well.
Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics Panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
I actually have If with Ryan Reynolds, directed by John Krasinski. I don't know what it is. Every time I see that trailer, I'm like, we're gonna have so much fun with this. And like Steve Carell voicing the purple like blob, like I'm very excited to watch it. And I think it's gonna hit with just like the nostalgia of obviously having an imaginary friend. And I think that it's a very big difference from A Quiet Place for John Krasinski. So it'll be really interesting to see if like not only kids like are gonna enjoy it, but I think that everyone, like general audience, they're all gonna go and hopefully enjoy it. So.
It's a really hard one to predict, I feel.
Yeah. That's why I took it as like an honorable mention. I'm like, you never know, because everyone loves Reynolds, and I'm like, and they trust Krasinski too with A Quiet Place. So I'm thinking like that's a marriage, so we'll see.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, David, what do you have at 10?
Number 10 is one that I have no idea what to expect, but I just feel like it might overplay here, and that is Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1. This part 1 of the 2-part Kevin Costner thing. He's so popular amongst a certain subsect of American content watchers, and
they're obsessed.
Yeah, they might show up. We will see. And if it does really well, that might mean the second one will do really well too. So it makes the whole thing. But we have seen that part ones of two-parters have kind of failed lately, so that might work against it. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to expect, but I am putting it on my list. It's number 10.
Manda, what do you got at 10?
I actually have A Quiet Place day one. I think there's a lot of buzz surrounding that one. And obviously, like, it's in the franchise. People love horror. And we only have like a couple of horror films coming out this summer. It's like scattered, which is a good thing. So people aren't like I guess it's not like oversaturated within a month or two. So it's a good scattered thing. But yeah, I think it'll do well. I don't think it'll do as well as the first one, obviously. But I think it's gonna place up there.
Yeah, I mean, it has the advantage of being like accessible horror too, because PG-13. I think people feel like, okay, I can handle this, and so I think that will help it. Well, for me, my number 10 is where I have The Fall Guy. And I might be undervaluing this because I didn't really care for it, to be honest, at South by Southwest, which I was very disappointed with it. But it seems like I'm in the vast minority, so that's cool. And it certainly looked so appealing. That was part of the reason I was so excited for it. And so I think the people will be pretty hyped. And the advertising has been good. And it does seem like a movie that is a multi-gender movie. Like the girls will be interested in it, the guys will be interested in it, like and so that helps too.
Definitely.
But that's where I have it. And again, I might be kind of undervaluing it just because I didn't really like it. But yeah. So David, what do you have at 9?
Number 9 for me is Maxine, which I know, it being A24 doesn't usually make the top 10, but they just had their biggest hit ever with Civil War, and I kind of think that trend might continue. And plus, I feel like everybody wants to see this, whether you're, a film Twitter person or a horror in general person. Everybody is like super in on this series, and this is the biggest one of the series. So I feel like it might overperform quite a bit.
That is a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that happening for sure. Because even like it's had enough time to where like X is streaming on Netflix right now and people loved Pearl. So yeah, you're right. It did gain traction. I do. Yeah, it could do well, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels so indie, but we've seen it before where some of these indie films, really, really have they last in the box office. And and those
still towards the bottom. Still towards the bottom of my top 10, but like making it in.
Yeah.
And those previous ones were so good. Like I even watched those. And I'm not a horror person.
Really good. They're so good. Yeah.
Mona, what do you have at 9?
I am going to dip into the video game factory, and I do think that Borderlands is going to place in the top 10, just like Five Nights at Freddy's surprised us. I think that the gaming community will show up for that film. It's a gamble, believe me. I didn't know where to place this one. But if it does anything like even Fallout on Amazon Prime, everyone's like obsessed with that series. So I think the video game adaptations do fairly well, and it looks kind of like wild. The cast is fun, so I do think that it'll place somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that one.
I also did. I didn't even think about that one either. But that is an interesting one, and you're right. With Fallout like blowing up right now, like it could get a little bit of that kind of fallout from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah.
Well, my number 9 is where I put the Garfield movie. This one's tough. It could totally fizzle, and I remember that like Super Pets one like didn't do anything. Like I could be like that, but the comp that I used was actually the Angry Birds movie. I felt like it's like similar studio, similar animation, similar type humor. That thing made $352 million first Angry Birds movie.
Damn.
And according to Ryan Gosling, killed the chances of a Nice Guys 2. So
I was so upset when I saw that tweet today. I was so upset. He basically said that Nice Guys 2 won't happen because Angry Birds came out the exact same weekend as The Nice Guys, and that movie got a sequel, so The Nice Guys didn't because it didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah.
So I was like, why'd you kill our dreams, man? We need the sequel to The Nice Guys. Like
freaking Angry Birds.
That's really funny.
So bad.
I actually interviewed the director of Angry Birds too.
Nice.
On the channel.
Nice.
Yeah. So what do you have at 8, David?
I've got Furiosa, which is a tough one to kind of gauge here. I loved 3,000 Years of Longing. I know a lot of people weren't super happy with the trailer for Furiosa, which I don't know if that's just an online thing or an in general thing, but obviously Fury Road is like the action movie of the last 20 years. So it's got a lot to live up to, but I think the trailer looks fantastic, and I'm on board anything George Miller does. And by the way, if you're listening and happen to be in Las Vegas, May 23rd, we'll be doing a live show on Furiosa, so come on out for that. But yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome, and I hope it does well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have Furiosa at 8.
Right on.
Ooh,
yeah, so we're the same. Yeah, I think that it has enough goodwill in the franchise that it's going to get enough people to make this list. I mean, it's kind of ironic because the same idiots who are all like, they're turning Mad Max into girl power are now the same ones who were like, what are they doing with Fury, taking, this Furiosa movie and like whining and complaining about it. I'm like, oh, y'all suck. I hate you so much.
You can't make those people happy ever.
No,
no
God,
point in trying.
Like talking to a wall. There's no way. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that it looks pretty good. It looks fun. I mean, it's hard because that is one of the most like unique, exciting, visceral films of the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And so you have the bar is pretty high, but can it just be entertaining? Can it be entertaining? Yeah, it's hard to know. What about you, Manda? What's your 8?
Don't hate me, Rachel, because I have Inside Out 2 at 8, and it's low. It's low, but it's in the top 10.
I am very nervous about this film, so no apologies needed from me.
Listen, there was no need for a sequel. I was very surprised when they announced a sequel. I think the first Inside Out is absolutely perfect. I am an emotional wreck when I watch that film. It's fantastic. They have very big shoes to fill. And from what I've been seeing, I'm not entirely sold on it. But also like Pixar has not done well at the box office or as well as people would have hoped. So yeah, that was also a gamble, and that's why it's at 8 for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to be kind of worried about with this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I am very nervous about this anxiety character. And because they had always done just more broad categories, something like sadness. This is a specific diagnosable condition. Like this is not, like are they going to treat anxiety just like it's stress? Because that's not the same thing. And I hate that.
Right.
And especially the director coming out and saying that anxiety is the big bad over the other emotions. And I'm just like, okay, I have major problems with that. And it makes me very nervous. And then also, I feel like they have the same basic emotion 3 times. Why do they have fear, embarrassment, and anxiety? Those are all very similar.
Tied together.
Yeah, they bleed into each other. That's why like it's going to be hard to distinguish them for sure.
And why? Because we saw into the heads of so many people in that movie at the end. We even saw into the dogs and cats and stuff like that. So why none of them had anxiety? None of them had embarrassment? None of them had that doesn't make any sense. And so I'm just sitting here like, oh.
If I could just say, like, I have it a little higher up. I'll bring it up later. But like, I'm wondering if this is a conversation only us film critics are going to have, and if general audiences will be like, "There's new emotions. This is great."
It's only going to be us.
Because all the Pixar sequels, except for maybe like Cars 2 and 3, have all done really well. Like they've all made over $1 billion. Incredibles 2, not Bugs Life. Finding Dory, all of those sequels, Toy Story 4 made over $1 billion. All of them have made over $1 billion. So if we're just talking box office, it's hard to not put a Pixar sequel high. But that was before their brand had been materially damaged.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to see like how much the brand has been damaged, because I was frankly kind of shocked. Like, I didn't expect these re-releases, or not re-releases, first time releases of the pandemic films. I didn't expect them to do like gangbusters, but I thought that they would do like $1 million. I mean, they just made nothing.
No one cares. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like crazy.
It's true.
Nothing. And
No,
I mean, you look at something like the re-release of the Nightmare Before Christmas last year made $10 million.
See, I think it comes down to, like, as you say, like with Toy Story 4 and like Cars and all of that, like those sequels, they had likable characters where like we became attached to these characters, especially like with the Incredibles, you know. And I think the main problem with Inside Out is that, I guess, not the emotions are supposed to be likable characters, but that's not why people enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, in those other films, it's like you had Lightning McQueen, you had Mater, like those are like, you can sell them, where for Inside Out, they don't have that. But like, there's so many factors working against Inside Out, as you just said. So it's going to be really interesting to see what it does.
And did you see the basically like Tickle Me Elmo anxiety doll? Oh my gosh. Like, it makes me extremely uncomfortable. Like, they're like, squeeze it and it shakes with anxiety. I'm like, oh,
they don't know how to. Yeah, they're trying to they're trying to teach young kids about it, and I understand that. I respect it, but they're not doing it in a way that's like smart at all. So yeah,
it makes me very nervous. But you know, we'll just see if they can pull it off. Pull it off. So I forget where we landed. You had it right at 8.
Yeah, I had it at 8, so we're at 7 now. Yeah.
Okay.
Embark on a delightful journey with the Romance of Rings series by award-winning author Esther Hatch. Discover a world where sweet historical romance meets laugh-out-loud comedy. The first book, Manor for Sale, Baron Included, is free on Kindle from April 25th to 29th. Grab it so you can enjoy Lord Farnsworth's bumbling attempts at wooing the wealthy new owner of his mother's estate. Don't miss the newest release in the series, There Goes the Groom, which is already being hailed as a new favorite Esther Hatch novel. Find out more on this and all of Esther's books at estherhatch.com. That's ESTHERHATCH.com, or use the affiliate link below.
All right, well, we said there's no Top Gun Maverick, but we do have Glenn Powell in Twisters coming out on July 19th, which another one that's really hard to gauge, because do people really care about a new Twister movie? I really don't know, but I think it's a really fun trailer, and you know, we are in the midst of, you know, nostalgia overload, so maybe people will be into this. I am putting it a little high, but I think it could do really well.
Yeah, I have it really high. I mean, it just looks super entertaining to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's only tangentially related to the first film.
Sure.
And so I don't think that like a love or hate relationship with the first film will matter that much. Kind of like Maverick in a way. Like, it didn't super matter. But yeah, it looks really good to me.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have, Manda, at 7?
I also have Twisters at 7. I think Glenn Powell is just going to have a very magical year. Because again, if we really look at it, apart from like Maverick and actually people finding him as like Hitman in that movie, Anyone But You really showed like just how charming he was as a leading man. And now we have Hitman coming out on Netflix, riding the coattails. We're going to go into Twisters. Like, I think he's going to have a really solid like 4-film run here, and I think that he's going to become a superstar by the end of the summer. So he is the main draw for Twisters, apart from the nostalgia, as you guys mentioned.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I would watch him in anything if he winks at me with that cowboy hat. Like, it's locked and loaded. That was good.
Agreed. My number 7 is Where I Have a Quiet Place, day 1.
Nice.
So the last one made including worldwide, it made 297 million.
Mm.
And that was like pandemic. And so I think that, I mean, I just feel like a lot of people are gonna, it doesn't look like it'll have the annoying problem of especially horror prequels of like explaining stuff we don't care about.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it's almost more of a disaster movie of, seeing the day one, kind of chases and races and everything like that. Like when I watched the trailer, it looked like, okay, this is something that I could like bring a lot of people to, that they would be on their comfort level.
Yeah.
As far as thrillers. So yeah, I think it'll be a pretty big hit, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully for them, for their sake.
Yeah. What do you have at 6, David?
This is where I have The Fall Guy, which I love Ryan Gosling, and I hope it's really fun. And I know you didn't really like it, Rachel. I also don't think the trailer is that great. I love the premise, and like I said, I love Gosling, but like I don't think it's the best trailer. But everybody seems to like it, and it's probably gonna have a really good word of mouth, and we'll see what happens when it comes out in a week or two.
I've also realized that this David Leitch, I don't think he's for me. Just not for me. I didn't like Bullet Train. I didn't like Deadpool 2. I didn't like it. Just not for me. So sometimes
that's fair.
What about you, Manda?
I have, because I am an Alien truther. I have Alien Romulus in 6th. Okay, I put her right down in the middle. I think that people underestimated Covenant. I think people underestimated Prometheus, which is one of my favorites, films.
Yes. But I don't think either of those did that well at the box office, did they?
They didn't, but you know what? It's been like a sleeper hit because now everyone I'm telling you, on social media, it's like people start like coming out of the woodwork. I love Prometheus. I love Alien Covenant. Like it's just happened. And I kept it a secret for so long. So then when I finally said it, everyone kind of joined in. I'm like, whoa, you guys like it too. So I think that it took enough time away from Covenant for people to kind of like forget that it happened if they didn't like it. And then Romulus is here. And it also has a great cast. I'm kind of like biased with Kaylee Spaney, and I think she's having a great year too with Civil War. But it's an alien movie. People are gonna go watch it, So.
Yeah, I can see it. Well, my number 6 is actually where I have Inside Out too.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I mean we talked about it, but I think it was a very hard one to place, but I think that's where it'll land. Yeah. But what about you? What do you have at 5, David?
That's where I've got Inside Out too.
Yeah.
I feel like we've said everything about it. It's really difficult to figure out how it's gonna do, but we will see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manda, what do you have at 5?
I have Despicable Me 4 at 5. The people go crazy for the Minions, man. Okay, that's it. They go crazy for the Minions. They're very confused that Gru actually has a child now, so I think it's just gonna draw everyone in. They haven't.
You won't believe where I have it, so yeah, I agree.
I kind of said, I'm like, Rachel has it higher than me. I'm pretty sure. But you can't knock these films. I'm sorry, they're making a 4th one. Okay, like. Yeah, I've gone to screenings.
Made $1 billion.
They all hit. The kids love this freaking franchise. Okay, they love it, and I've gone to screenings where people have been clapping during the trailer. So,
or I think all but the first one. I don't think the first one made $1 billion, but yeah,
they ran with that.
It's insane. But
we'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
My number 5 is where I have Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Yeah.
I mean, the last one was one of the big hits before the pandemic started. It was one of the biggest hits of 2020 because of that.
Sure.
And I feel like there's like enough energy and sort of goodwill for it to do pretty well. So that's where I have it.
Yeah, I didn't place it on my list, but I think it's like right below the 12 movies I talked about. Like it would be the next one, maybe that and A Quiet Place, which is also not on my list. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it though.
Yeah. So what do you have it for?
So 4 for me is Alien Romulus. I do think like my thing with the Alien movies is they're all so different from one another that they draw in different people each time, and a lot of people will be annoyed by them and dislike them, but then a lot of people end up loving them. And I've loved the prequels, and this one it feels like, I mean, with Fede Alvarez as the director, who is known for really like just violent and gritty stuff, it feels like it's maybe going for a little bit of an Aliens vibe, which they've never really recaptured that before. So I don't know. I think that this is going to do really well. I think people are going to be into it.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, what do you have it for, Manda?
I have Furiosa F4. I think you have Chris Hemsworth with a prosthetic nose in this movie. Okay, people love him. You know what I mean? So I think that they want to see him in a different role. I think everyone loves Anya Taylor-Joy, and they love the character of Furiosa. Apart from the fact that obviously Charlize Theron's not playing her, it's just the fact that they did love the character and what George Miller created back then. So I think that it is going to do well. Again, like I've been in theaters and they cheer with the Furiosa trailer. Everyone's like really hyped with it. So I do think that an action film like that, kind of like what happened with Mad Max Fury Road, is that it was word of mouth. And then that's going to generate the audience for it, I think.
Do you know, is it R-rated?
I would imagine so, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, rated R. I was just curious because that,
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, my number 4 is where I have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Ooh.
This was a tough one, I think, to rank, but the last one made $490 million. It did worldwide. It did better than I was thinking it did because it was so grim, the last one. It was pretty brutal. But I don't know. I just feel like there's enough sort of goodwill in this franchise to make it do pretty well. And hopefully, obviously, the movie's good. And you just had Kong versus Godzilla, whatever that was. It did pretty well. So, and we feel feeling the apes stuff is right now. So, but what do you have next?
Yeah, my number 3 is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And I love that trilogy. It is so much better than I could have ever expected it to be. And that makes me really nervous that they're going to try to continue in that same, storyline, even though this takes place years later or whatever. But with a new director who has only done the Maze Runner movies, that's, kind of nerve-wracking a little bit. But apparently Nintendo is giving him the rights to make the Legend of Zelda movie in a couple of years. So they must have a lot of faith in this movie doing
Yeah, they're very picky about who they allow.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So what do you have at 3, Manda?
I have, wait a minute. I messed up here, didn't I? What I said Despicable Me 4 the last time, right?
That would have been 4.
That's 5 for me.
Or wait, you're on 4?
Yeah.
How did I mess this up again? I don't know.
It's okay. No, I'm trying to look at my list. And I'm like, wait, I didn't say these two.
So what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Furiosa. Oh no, I did say it. That was 4. No, we did say it. Never mind. We're at 3. We're correct. Good. Sorry. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. So number 3, I have The Fall Guy. I'm sorry.
Oh, you did really high.
Listen, Ryan Gosling is everyone's obsession right now, just because of like riding the coattails of Barbie. The guy is not slowing down. This is coming out perfect after Barbenheimer, even for Emily Blunt. So they do want to see them, and especially the little banter they had at the Oscars. I think will really generate The Fall Guy. But I think it's Gosling, and Gosling is like, it's the nice guys times 10 in the Fall Guy. So I think that's why people are gonna love it.
I know I was super hyped for it, so I get it. People are people are real hyped. My number 3 is where I have Deadpool 3. I think it's gonna make a healthy sum. The second one made $785 million. That's a lot of money, and so I think it will do well. It was hard for me to put it much higher, given that it's in a hard R-rated film. Can it top the box office? I don't know, but I have it at 3. But what about you, David? What do you have at 2?
I have Despicable Me 4 at number 2, and I don't particularly like those movies, but coming off of Super Mario Brothers last year, I think I think they're gonna really ride that and have another huge hit on their hands. Like Manda was saying, everybody loves these stupid movies.
Well, my number 2 is where I have Twisters.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on Twisters, and I just think it looks so entertaining and so well done. And I feel like it could be kind of this year's Top Gun Maverick, in maybe not in that sense, but just in the sense of like a nostalgic film that the whole family can go to and all enjoy. And so I'm pretty bullish on Twisters. I have it at number 2.
Yeah, I think the family aspect is another thing that we didn't mention earlier. You're right about that.
That is true.
I think everybody can go. What about you, Mona? What do you have at 2?
Yeah, I have Bad Boys Ride or Die. I think, I'm really excited for that one. I loved the third one. And I think it's going to do really well as like a Will Smith comeback type situation. And Martin Lawrence is absolutely hysterical. So I just seeing them like older and doing it, I think it's going to be really funny. Fingers crossed for them. I'm just like, let's put it at 2 because I think it'll do really well.
Yeah. So David, what do you have at number 1?
Or do we do your number 1 or no?
Right, because we did out of order. So Twisters is my number 2.
Gotcha.
So David, what do you have at number 1?
My number 1 is Deadpool and Wolverine. I think this movie is going to make our superhero movies falling off money. It's going to just jump right back. The real question isn't whether this is going to be the biggest box office hit of the year, but whether it's going to re-kickstart superhero movies or if it's just going to be an anomaly. And then we'll go back to, Ant-Man Quantumanias and Madam Webs from here on out, but this movie is going to make so much money. It's ridiculous.
Well, and I mean, Marvel does need a kick in the butt. And, this is going to be it. I mean, last year, except for Guardians. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, so you think it will make more than the second one?
I kind of do. Yeah, I kind of do. I think that the people who love these movies are just so starved for one they could get excited about. And I just don't think they were excited about the last couple of years worth of them.
Yeah. So Manda, do you have the same?
Absolutely. I have the same at number 1. I think it's going to do like Deadpool 1 numbers and hopefully exceed that. I love Ryan Reynolds, and I think that we've had enough time without him as Wade Wilson to miss him. And I think that's been a massive problem with the MCU as a whole, is that we have not missed any of these characters. And I think that comes with like all superhero films where we're getting another Superman. Like they don't give us enough time to miss them. And that's what made like phase 1 and phase 2 of Marvel so exciting to watch and make them event films. Obviously, with Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine, it's a huge deal. Huge deal. And I think that it's going to get everyone there, especially with the whole multiverse type situation, cameos here, cameos there, you don't know who's coming in. I do think it's going to go gangbusters and hopefully reclaim the title of like number 1 R-rated film of all time. I want it.
Well, I think that the number 1 movie is going to be Despicable Me 4. I feel like no matter how good Deadpool 3 does, you can't bring the whole family to it. I mean, and people go see these Despicable Me movies over and over and over again. And you've even got those meme people that go in suits and stuff. Like, That was a thing last time. Like, I don't know. Like, I kept looking for a reason why the bubble has burst, and I could not find one. I mean, the last one did so well. They've almost all made over $1 billion. They, people just love them. If anything, in my opinion, the last one was one of the best. The last Minions movie is one of the best ones they made. And so, I don't quite get it. I don't quite get the phenomenon, but it is one. And I don't know. I just don't see how Deadpool 3 can beat an incredibly popular family franchise that, you have to lay down not just 2 adults going to see it, but 2 adults and 4 kids and whatever,
It's true. It's going to be tough.
True.
Yeah. So there we go. Well, let's go over our list real quick. So I have Despicable Me 4 at number 1. I have Twisters at number 2. I have Deadpool 3 at number 3. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at 4. Bad Boys Ride or Die at 5. Inside Out 2 at 6. A Quiet Place Day 1 at 7. Furiosa at 8. The Garfield Movie at 9. The Fall Guy at 10. Trap at 11. And Fly Me to the Moon at 12. And Amanda, what about your list?
I have Deadpool and Wolverine at 1. I have Bad Boys Ride or Die at 2. I have The Fall Guy at 3. I have Furiosa at 4. I have Despicable Me 4 at 5. Alien Romulus at 6. Twisters at 7. Inside Out 2 at 8. Borderlands at 9. A Quiet Place Day 1 at 10. The Watchers at 11. And If at 12.
Good. And David?
I have Deadpool and Wolverine at 1, Despicable Me 4 at 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at 3, Alien Romulus at 4, Inside Out 2 at 5, The Fall Guy at 6, Twisters at 7, Furiosa at 8, Maxine at 9, Horizon: An American Saga Chapter 1 at 10, Trap at 11, and The Crow at 12.
Very good. Well, let us know if you're listening what you think of our predictions and what you're looking forward to, but then also your own predictions. We'd love to see that in the comments section or on Twitter. And David, where can people find you?
Oh, people can find Piecing It Together wherever they listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about on the podcast.
Great. And Manda, what about you?
You guys can always follow me over at AMX and Day Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're checking out the Hallmarkies podcast. A lot of fun stuff going on over there, including this week, I'm interviewing the director of Musica. That was one of my favorites. So I'm really excited about that. So check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes, leave your ratings and reviews. Really appreciate that. And if you're watching YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. Also, the Patreon group and merch store. Check out that. And thanks so much to both of you. And happy movie going, everybody. Bye.
Woo!
All right, we did it. Yay.
Perfect.